Hello, Daniel. Could you please give an introduction about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Daniel Leal. I'm originally from Peñitas, Texas, a small town in the south part of Texas, tip of the border with Mexico. I grew up there my entire life. I now live in Dallas, Texas, for the past 3 years, and I'm a software engineer. And now I'm a agency owner, making about $84,000 in the past 5 months.
Amazing. Okay. So, what's it like over there in Mexico?
In Mexico, yeah. So it's
Sorry, in Texas, Texas.
In Texas, yeah. I mean, it's nice. There's a lot of things to do here. A lot of different people to network with. So in my small town, there was not that many people. I mean, there's a lot, but it varies compared to places like Dallas, where many people come here to meet and network and do business. So you get people from all over the world, pretty much. And there's more opportunities here where I'm at. So this is why I kind of moved here. Originally, it was for a job, and then I quit that, and then now I started my own thing. So
Got it. Okay. So, as a software engineer, you decided to join the real world. How did you find out about it, and why did you actually decide to join? Because some people hesitate, some people
yeah,
think it might be a scam. So, what was the situation for you?
yeah. So I mean, I have a pretty big long story of pretty much how I got to where I'm at now. Um, I guess I can kind of share a little bit, but pretty much I was always doing stuff like making money on making different side hustles, working a lot of jobs. For example, I'll start at the very beginning. I started reselling chips at high school with my twin brother. So that's kind of where I started the art of making money. That's where I started with my twin brother, and we did that for a while, and then we started reselling shoes. So we did that for a couple years, made a really good amount of money. We were pretty much the shoe plugs back at home. And after that, we each got our own jobs. We went to university. He studied electrical engineering. I did computer science. So then I started app development, and I did that for about 3 years. Made maybe 10 to 15 apps for different businesses. And at the time, there wasn't AI, so it was just learning on my own. Working on Stack Overflow, finding different articles and stuff like that. But then I wanted a taste of something bigger. So then that's where I moved to Dallas, and I got a real job at a corporate place in an aerospace company with the government. So I was in the matrix, underneath a basement, working on classified information. And I was there for about 2 years, but it was pretty much head down and code.
Mhm.
So that was not really my style, even though I really enjoyed it. But that's where I was always doing things like making side hustles, creating new businesses, and I started an e-commerce store, and I did very well with that store as well. And I met some people because of that. But I always followed Andrew and Tristan for probably about 5 years now, since 2020, 2019. And I always wanted to join. The thing is, I always had all these things going on that I never really like paid too much attention. I knew about Hustlers University, then the real world. um, but I already kind of was familiar with what he was doing, and I followed Tate Confidential. I followed him on all social medias. Um, but yeah, so then I started that, and then I started a marketing company with someone, and then that's kind of where I was pretty much trying to see what I can do for myself. And it was about last year in October. I saw a video of some students doing really well in the real world, and I was like, huh. It was on AI, and I was like, huh, that's interesting. And I was like, that's pretty cool stuff. And then I joined as a champion, so I committed myself to 2 years, and I was like, you know what, this is a good step for me. And I tried it out, and I did all the courses for about a month. I learned everything, and then I jumped ship and I quit my job, and I went all in. I
You
went
said
all in
after a month.
after a month. Yeah, I was like, yeah, I can totally do this. And I quit my job, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but God's got me. And two
Yeah.
days later, I got my big client, and that was it. That's the
Okay.
start.
So, explain in that first month. You were going through the AI automation campus, correct?
Yes, yes.
So, what did you learn in that time? What kind of outreach were you doing? What services were you offering?
Yeah. So at the beginning, it's about learning all the courses and getting kind of familiar with how everything works. So first it was the chatbots, and that's kind of where I got the idea of creating an agency for AI automation. So I saw the chatbots and how easy it kind of was to do, and the necessity for it in today's world. Um, and that's kind of how I learned. So I learned all the different courses that Pope had and Cam, and then I really enjoyed what they were doing. And then I just decided to put that with what I know for websites, because I knew how to do a lot of websites. I know how to do apps as well. So I pretty much merged all that together, and it was kind of like a good upsell for what I offer, which is websites and apps, and any type of automation now. So that's kind of how I started the agency. Mhm.
Mhm. Okay. And then yeah, for outreach, how did you land your first client?
So that first one was, I think, from God, because I don't know how it came. Because it was like 2 days after I quit my job. This guy that I hadn't spoke to in about a year messaged me, "Hey, have someone that needs help on a website. He has an e-commerce store, but he's willing to help you out, or to work with you." I was like, interesting. I hadn't spoken to this guy in forever, and I got to talk to the client, and I closed him for 7,000. That was
Mhm.
my first client. I closed him for building out his e-commerce store, or upgrading it, and then also including a chatbot.
Mhm.
So that was kind of my way in.
And how comes you were comfortable charging that 7,000? Because usually people for the first client tend to charge cheaper to get the experience, get a testimonial, and then try leverage that. But in your case, it seems you were pretty comfortable with just getting 7,000.
Yeah, I guess since I've had a lot of experience in creating apps, and like I have a lot of good testimonials and good portfolio to show, it was a lot easier to charge that amount. And two, it was a lot of work, so it was, I think, very justified. I think even undervalued of, I
Mhm.
think it should have been anywhere from 10 to 15, because it was quite a bit of work. But other than that, he was very happy, and as of now, he's a monthly retainer for me, and a happy client.
Okay. And then how did things go from there? How did you land your other clients?
So the second client was another big one, which it was crazy. So he loved what I did. I blew it out of the water of what he wanted. Killed it with the chatbot. Killed it with the e-commerce store. It was like a dream of his, of how I made it, and I really tried my best. So it showed, and he recommended me to one of his clients, um, and it's a big oil investment company. So that I went in my first meeting, that they wanted an app, they wanted a CRM, they wanted a website, they wanted AI in their business, and I came up with a good number, and in that meeting I closed them for $50,000.
Wow.
Yeah,
It
so it
was
was.
just spur of the moment. You're like, you know what? I'm going to say 50,000. Or was everything pre planned and you knew going
So they
in what I'm going to
Yeah,
say?
so they kind of already had told me kind of what they wanted beforehand. There was some prep, but I already knew. An app takes a while. A website takes a little bit. You got to do a little bit of research, and then also a CRM. You got to learn how their business works so you can develop a proper CRM for them. So all of that was mixed with AI as well, and I charge accordingly, and I gave them a good timeline. They liked what I did. I showed them a good portfolio. I spoke very, very confidently, and I had a lot of conviction in what I was selling, because I've done stuff like this before, and I had no doubt in my mind that I could achieve it. So that's pretty much what I sold: value and a solution to their problems. Easy, easy close.
Very cool. Okay.
Yeah, that's
Now
cool.
I'm wondering, with your experience in app development, at what stage is AI currently in replacing that or facilitating app development?
I mean, for me, in terms of coding, I've probably sped up my development by maybe 100 times. What used to take me maybe 5 months or 6 months to make, I can do it in maybe 2 or 3 weeks.
Mhm.
And a good example was, I was a participant of the AI hackathon that Andrew and the team did, and I did a whole working app with AI, with Solana, integrating Solana as well, and I did it in 7 days. A whole working social media app that was like, wow! It was like one of the best apps I had made, and I did two all nighters with my twin brother, and we did it in 7 days. It was insane. Like I connected all the back end, all the front end. I used a lot of the AI tools that helped speed up the process. But it opens the door to see what's possible, and how fast you can now develop things. It's crazy. So it's definitely a good plus. It's not going to replace people just yet, because there's a lot of things that you still have to do, connecting backends, connecting different systems. Right now it can't do a lot of things, so it's definitely a good foundation, and you can build quite a bit of things for it, upwards. But you still got to build the whole house. You got to build a couple of things. So
Was it Bolt.new that you used or something else?
yeah, it was both. Yeah, both I used, and then also some other tools, and then Cursor was what I used mostly for development, and it worked so well. So, but you
Because
still
yeah,
kind of, uh
I tried using Bolt, and if you start asking for more stuff, it starts giving you issues. So I guess
hmm
with actual app development experience, you can fix those
yeah,
issues yourself. But as someone who
exactly,
doesn't have the experience, then you're left wondering, well, what do I do now? Because this doesn't
exactly.
work. So yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of time I'm in the real world answering questions, and it's people asking me these type of questions. It's like, man, like it's like you kind of got to know what you're kind of doing, but it's not impossible. It just takes some time, take some practice, and you understand. And people think it's like one, two, three, and that's it. But no, it takes a little more effort, and but it's definitely possible. So,
But in some point in future, I think it will have like
oh yeah,
full on everything.
definitely. Yeah,
Because
I
now it
would
feels
probably
like
say
what ChatGPT used to be when it first came out. Was it ChatGPT
exactly.
3? Like it seems like it's that now, but for app building, website building. So it will
Yeah,
only. Yeah. What were you gonna
it
say?
probably. I would probably say in 2 years it would probably almost replace some developers. Yeah.
Which is pretty insane because how when I was in high school, it was such a good prospective job to have to do computer science because there was such a shortage of people doing computer science, and then because
Yeah.
of that, so many people went into computer science, and now I'm pretty sure people are left with basically there's no more computer science jobs, but a saturation in the market of people who can do computer science, and now AI
Yep.
is coming in and will replace the ones who already have a job. So many people kind of go screwed in a way with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
But
It's
in your
happening with
case,
graphic designers too.
yep, yep. But yeah, at least in your case, you're actually able to get employment and pretty decent employment. And then you
Like,
decided to do your own thing. So yeah, that was your decision. Yeah, some
mhm,
people I've seen just can't even get employment for it anymore. But
yeah,
anyway, that's why you build your own thing. Get your own skill sets and build your own
yeah,
thing.
exactly. If
Cool.
you can't beat them, join them.
And, all right. So how different is your average day now compared to before you joined the real world?
It's extremely busy. A lot of task delegation. So now I have a team. I have about 6 or 7 projects in the pipeline. So doing it all myself is impossible. So I also got a business mentor that helps me out as well. And I also have a couple of teammates too that help out in graphic design, or helping out some of my clients. That way I can work on the bigger projects, which is what's going to take me to bigger heights, right? So right now there's like maybe some websites that I need to get done. So I have some of that work offloaded to some of my team. Whatever the contract was, I pay about 40-50%, and then I keep the rest, right? So it's about scaling. If you want to get to bigger things like that, either that, or you can keep building out some of your products, right? Something more templatable. But right now I have, as an agency, I have quite a bit of different projects and things that I'm working on.
And at what point do you plan on outsourcing and how will you do it?
So I already kind of do outsource a little bit. I have some people that I got from the real world. So I got a couple people that do AI automations. I got a people that do AI chatbots, AI voice callers, and I know how to do all these things. But I'm also working on apps, and not a lot of people can do the app development. You got to pay a higher wage for that, and that's what I'm kind of like focusing on, finishing the apps that I have pending, and then also scaling all the different services that I have, like AI. And I pay some people to help me out, or if I have time, then I'll do it myself. So it all depends on the task and how much work I have. But yeah, every day is pretty busy. I have the checklist in the real world is huge, and then I have other project planners too, just so I can stay on track and meet the deadlines. So it's been really busy. I'm grateful, but
No.
yeah, it's fun. I
Okay.
enjoy it.
So with everything you're doing, if you were to break it up into short term, medium term, and long term, what plans do you have for everything?
Yeah, I think short term, it's kind of where I'm at now, which is kind of be stable, have some, some money, some cash flow coming in, that I can, live off of, right? Because also I quit my job, so it was like a big, big risk, but it was a fun one, and I love challenges and I love risking it, and yeah, it worked. It's working out for me.
Mhm.
So that was kind of the short term. Medium uh, goal would be kind of like, maybe being a little higher, maybe reaching 50 to 100K a month, steady, right? And being there at a good point. Probably in a couple more months, I think I'll reach that. I think next month would be probably 30. I'll hit 30, but I need to get to maybe 50 to 100, which will probably be maybe some more retainers. I need to close more retainers, and then have maybe just some sort of services that are not very custom, like apps and stuff like that. So that's one. And then I think long term would be some of these apps that I'm building, turn them into SaaS, apps. That way I can license these different copies of the software, sell them to different businesses. But I think almost every single app that I'm building, I'm templating them to be able to do this because I see this as a long term thing. And then I'm putting AI into them too. So it's like a working, it's going to work out in the long term, right? So right now I'm building it out, it's little step by step, but eventually it's gonna become bigger than what it seems. So my long term goal is to have one of those apps, blow up and exit, really. So that's always been my goal. So that's what I'm working towards.
And what will you do with the exit? What's your plan?
Yeah, with the probably start building other things, right? Help people, of course. I love helping people and help out my family, take them to nice vacations, um, you know, buy their dream house, buy their dream cars, take them to wherever they want to go. Just help people. I love helping people. And I think that's probably what I would use a lot of the money towards. I go to church a lot to help my church, help people there as well. And then also start building other things. I'll be more comfortable. I don't have to hustle as much if I do exit on a couple companies, since I'll be a little more stable. But other than that, I think just keep building. I enjoy the hustle. I enjoy the process. That's all. There's people that can't fight like we can. There's people that don't have the discipline like we can. So we have to be those type of people that can put up the fight and keep working. And I think that's always been my goal here. So
Yep.
I'm a hustler. Yeah.
Yep, yep. And now I'm wondering, how did your parents react when you told them that you quit your job and you're going to do something else?
They thought I was crazy.
Mhm.
They already thought I was crazy that I quit that big job. I was making six figures. I was making over $100,000 a year. It was a very comfortable job. People stay there for years. That's where people retire. There's old people there. The crazy part is there's people there that can't retire because of how much they know. So it's like it was literally like a rat race. Like you're just gonna
Wow.
be there for your entire life. Like you're gonna be there for your entire life. What you're gonna maybe double your income, maybe close to 200 in 10, 15 years. Who knows when or how we'll be in. That's hoping you don't die in 10 years. That's hoping you don't get into a deadly car accident or something that happens to you or your family. Is like there's so many different things that can happen in your life where it's like, is it really worth waiting when you can take action now? And that's for me. I felt like I had like a lot of potential, and I never wanted to waste it. So when I jumped ship, they were already kind of against that when went to the marketing company, because it was also kind of a startup, and it was like, man, like you were making so much money, like you were okay, but I also risked it there, and I tried it for a year, and it went out okay. But then this one was an even bigger risk, and I just said, hey, believe in me, I got this, everything will be fine. And it's been paying off. So now they're like, okay, good for you. They're a little proud of me.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be even better. Oh yeah.
But that's how life goes. Usually, your heart knows what you need to do. Some people call intuition. You can call your
Yeah.
heart, whatever else. But you know what it is that you actually need to do. But most people are scared of taking that step to actually do it. And either they
Yeah.
rationalize logically for why
Yes,
not to do it, or they're just too in their comfort zone to do anything else. So yeah, in your
exactly.
case, you just had full belief in yourself, and yeah, it happened. Like some other people might say, "Oh, it was lucky that this happened," but with everything I've heard, with all the people I've spoken to, with my life experience, it's not luck. The universe aligns because you
Yes.
set your intentions, you
Yep.
knew what it was you needed to do, you went out and done it, and the universe aligned in order to make it happen. So yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, and I felt like every single job, every single thing that I tried was a puzzle piece that I needed to grab. So even from reselling shoes, even from doing app development at the other job, even from going to that aerospace company, even to starting that marketing company, even the e-commerce stores that I started, everything was a puzzle piece to where I am now. Everything that I learned was like I'm applying it right now, and who knows, from what is this gonna come, in the future. I have no idea. I don't know what's gonna come, but I know there's gonna be bigger things, and maybe this is still a small puzzle. Maybe it's a 1,000-piece puzzle, right? Who knows? Maybe we're still at 100 pieces.
yeah.
So
Well said.
yeah.
So my final few questions are: since you mentioned that you listened to quite a bit of Tate, what
Yeah.
kind of impact has he had on you?
I mean, I think it helped fuel the fire that I have inside me. I have had a lot of drive, I had a lot of passion, and a lot of times, like, I would take action, but it was very like, I sometimes I would have that self doubt in me. I would get those thoughts that, not good enough, or hey, you know, you're not gonna make it, or you're gonna risk it, it's not gonna work, or whatever. And I think it helped solidify that, hey, you gotta believe in yourself, you gotta work hard, work very hard, and sometimes it's gonna suck. It's not made for everybody. There's times where it's like, man, like, how am I gonna pay rent, right? Yeah, that was kind of like at the beginnings, and to the normal person, that's where they quit. That's where they go back and fall back into their comfort zone. And Take kind of helped solidify that belief system. Also the TRW was an amazing tool, and it pretty much changed my life, as you can see here. I risked it. It worked out. It's been working out. I also met a lot of good people there, and I'm trying to close an app with a guy that connected me with someone, with another lead, and that's one in the pipeline right now that I'm working on. So yeah, Tate, changed my life pretty much. I'm very grateful. I always liked what he was doing. I followed him for a couple of years, and I always liked what he said because it was true. So
Amazing. Okay. And then for my final question, since you had so much use and benefit from the real world, what advice do you have to people who are either unsure about joining because they don't want to step out of their comfort zone, or maybe they think they will get scammed for the $50? What would you tell them?
just join, just join, and then you'll thank me later. You'll thank me later. You can see the leaderboards. You can see what people are doing. You can see all the wins, all the people that are making money. It's true. It's tried and true. And as a testimony for me, at first when I started, yeah, it was questionable. I was like, man, like, how are these people doing it? But I just start to go through the motions, start to go to the courses. There's not only AI automation, there's copywriting, there's e-commerce, there's business mastery. You already have some sort of business, or you're trying to work on creating a business. There's so many different tools there that you'll pretty much expand what you know right away, and you'll start making money almost instantly, just like I did. And it's just all about taking action. You got to take action. Don't be lazy. Work hard, work very hard, and eventually you'll take the leap of faith, just like I did, and it'll all work out.
Okay. So now for people who want to find out more about you or contact you, where can they do so?
Yeah, so you can go to my social medias. It's Daniel Leal 04, or you can go to my agency website, which is spiderbug.ai.
Okay. So yeah, we'll add that to the description of the video.
Cool.
And yeah, Daniel, software
Yeah.
engineer, you were making six figures.
Yep.
Then you decided to quit it all to go all
Yep.
in into the real world, into AI automation, to what you were learning
Exactly.
there. And within 2 days, you had your first client. Then next client, 50,000 landed from there. So yeah,
Yep.
really cool how everything's aligning for you and what your
Thank
life
you.
is heading. You're clearly on a good path. Hmm. See, I want to say you're in touch with yourself, but that sounds kind of gay. But you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Um, and with that, you just let it guide you, and everything's working out. So that's really
Thank you.
cool. And I
Yeah.
wish you all the best for future.
Thank you so much, man. Yeah, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I'm grateful for this opportunity. And yeah, I just love everything that you guys are doing here, and yeah, I'm extremely grateful, man.